I'm Miss Anderson, your 8th grade ELA Learning Strategies teacher. So go ahead and pull out your bell ringer. And you're going to read for 10 minutes the story entitled Water Babies. You're going to answer the first question on there. This is a sample test question from the excerpt from the Water Babies. So the question is, how does the author create suspense in the beginning of the passage? Go ahead and write your answers down. Choose A, B, C, or D. So you're going to work on that for the next 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. Go ahead and work on that. Everybody should be writing your bell ringer. So remember, you're going to focus on the beginning of the passage. That's the first 4 sentences, first 4 lines in the story. So let's move on to for discussion. So for letter A says, by allowing the reader to know Tom's thoughts and actions. Who chose A for that answer? Okay. All right. B says, by allowing the reader to observe the salmon's civility towards Tom. Raise your hand and thumbs up if you chose B. Okay. C says, by allowing the reader to observe Tom's interactions with the salmon. Who chose C? Okay. D says, by allowing the reader to know some of the salmon's feelings about Tom. Who chose D? Okay. All right. So the correct answer was A. By allowing the reader to know Tom's thoughts and actions. Because we know that the word suspense means what? To have anxiety about something or be kind of in fear about something. And he was kind of acting in suspense at the beginning of the story. We know that a salmon, which is a fish, cannot talk and does not have feelings and can't interact with the person, right? So we can use the process of elimination by eliminating C and D and actually B as well. All right, so let's move on. All right, so today is February the 23rd, and our standard for today is RL 8.2. All right, Rashad, go ahead and read that standard for us, RL 8.2.
Determine a thing or central idea of a text and analyze in detail its development over the course of the text, including how it emerges in shape and refined by specific details, providing accurate summary or text based upon this analysis.
All right, so Jordan, read the I can statement for this.
I can choose a thing for a central idea of a text. I can sequence and development over the course of a text. Show the relationship of the theme or the main idea of its character, setting, or plot. I can summarize the text.
Absolutely. All right. Pajarvis, read the second one, RL 8.1.
Contextual evidence that most strongly supports an analysis of what the text says explicitly as well as emphasis drawn from the text.
All right. Megan, can you read the I can statements that go with RL 8.1?
I can read closely to determine exactly what the text is saying and provide evidence. Cite the evidence that most strongly supports the analysis. Relate the author's message. Draw emphasis from the text.
Okay, absolutely. So we will be determining a thing or central idea of a text and analyzing it. And you know that means to break it down in detail, right? Over the course as the story progresses. All right, so we'll also be providing an accurate summary of the text. That's basically what this standard is all about. So in order for you to do that, you have to know how to cite textual evidence, right? So we're gonna go over that as well. All right, so for your learning target for today and this week will be, by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to cite evidence to draw conclusions about a text. You'll be able to interact with the story, poem, or passage to answer comprehension questions with supporting text-based evidence. This will help you become a critical thinker as well as an independent reader. So some of our essential questions that we'll be going over is, how do supporting ideas help to develop the central ideas of a literary text? Why is it important to identify explicit textual evidence? How can one use the writing process to improve your writing? So we will be going over some writing skills as well, which is W8.2. Writing an informative or explanatory text to examine a topic or convey an idea, concept, and information through a selection, organization, or analysis of relevant content. All right, so let's do our fluency drill of our 12 most powerful words that we use all the time. And as I stated before, you'll use these words in the ELA classes, math classes, science, or perhaps social studies, right? All right, so I'm going to get Zamarian to read the 12 powerful words, and you guys are going to recite the meaning of them like we do every day. All right, go ahead, Zamarian.
Trace,
List yourselves,
analyze,
break apart,
infer,
read between the lines,
evaluate,
judge,
formulate,
grade,
describe,
tell all about,
support,
develop details,
line,
tell how,
summarize,
use your story,
compare,
all the way they are alike,
contrary,
all the way they are different,
unique,
what will happen next?
Thank you so much. All right, now I'm going to highlight some of the words that we'll be using this week. All right, so we'll be tracing, since we'll be listing some things in steps. We'll definitely be analyzing. You know that means to break it apart, right? So we'll be using this word. We'll be making emphasis, because we'll be making educated guesses and reading between the lines. We'll be evaluating, because we'll be judging or forming an idea about something. We'll be formulating. We'll be creating things. We will be describing, because we'll be telling all about what happened in a story. We'll be definitely using support, that's backing things up with details. We'll be explaining, telling how something is done, and most definitely summarizing, because we'll be giving shorter versions of the text. All right, go ahead and make sure you make note of that. These are some of the words out of our 12 powerful words that we'll be focusing on this week. All right. All right, so how do supporting ideas help to develop the central idea of a literary text? I'm going to give you 2 minutes to jot down this question, and I'll call on you randomly to tell me what you came up with. How do supporting ideas help to develop the central idea of a literary text? Jot that question down. So, let me get my stick so I can call popsicle sticks. I'm going to call on you randomly. All right. Asia, what did you come up with?
Providing or giving examples.
So that's by providing and giving examples and or details. Okay, thank you. Chartavius, what did you come up with? How do supporting ideas, you know that supporting ideas are also what? key details. How do they help you to develop or determine what the central idea is? What's one way?
You said key detail.
Uh-huh.
Go to an idea about something.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Jordan, what did you come up with? All right, to give facts. All right. Megan.
Clues and character motivations.
All right, set clues. All right. Tiaja.
Give important facts.
Okay. All right, so anybody else came up with an idea? For Jarvis? What did you come up with? You want to help him out? Yes, go ahead. How do we determine the main idea? How do the supporting ideas or the key details, what do they do? What part do they play in helping us determine what the main idea is? Asia. It gives an explanation of the story. Thank you. Kamora. It gives facts and important details of the story. All right. Let's move along. All right. So, you know that the power of reading comes from analyzing a text in order to learn from it, making inferences, determining the central idea, and the details in a text that convey the central idea. So, jot this down in your Cornell note-taking templates. How do I cite textual evidence? I do this by using the racist strategy. You can reread the text. Most importantly, use evidence-based terms, right? Also known as sentence starters. You can use paraphrasing and summarizing. How do you make an inference? Using prior information or knowledge that you already know about the topic, plus the details that you read in the story, this will give you an inference. Okay? Let's move on. How do you determine a central idea? Write this down in your Cornell note-taking template. You can ask, what is the author trying to tell you or explain? You can look for certain words that are being repeated multiple times. This will also give you the topic of the story, of the text, right? All right? You can also ask, what clues do you see in the titles, headings, and subheadings? How does the topic and the concluding, what does the topic and the concluding sentence say? When you reread back in the story of the passage, you can look in the first paragraph and you can look for the first and the concluding sentence. What ideas explained in the text by examples or explanations? You can also use the team strategy to develop the central idea, and you can use the SWBST strategy to summarize the text. All right, that is the SWBST strategy. Jot that down in your notes. You know, when we use this strategy to summarize the text. The S is for somebody. You're going to ask, who is the main character? The W, wanted. What did the character want? B, what was the problem? That's but. The S is for so. How did the character try to solve the problem? And the T is for then. What was the resolution to this story? All right. To develop the central idea, you're going to use the team strategy. The T, that helps determine the topic. You're going to write down the topic of the paragraph. The E, you're going to reread the first and the last sentence of the paragraph. A, you're going to ask, what does the author want me to know? And M, you can now write the main idea. And this is the strategy we're going to focus on for today, the team strategy, because we're going to determine the main idea, central idea to text, as well as the supporting details. All right, so first we're going to start. I'm going to show you how to use the team strategy, okay? All right, so the title of this passage, this is a short paragraph, it's called Unusual Plants. So I'm going to read over it, and I'm going to model for you and show you how you guys are supposed to analyze a text to determine the central idea of the story, as well as the supporting details. So I'm going to read it. There are many, and follow along, there are many kinds of unusual plants. Cactuses, for instance, can survive in the great heat of the desert sun at noon and in the bitter cold of the desert at night. Instead of regular leaves, they have needles that serve as a defense against hungry animals. Their stems are full of hollow cells that store enough water to last for months. These features make the cactus a remarkable plant, able to live in one of nature's harshest environments. So we're going to determine what the main idea of the passage is. All right, let's go ahead and start. So let's look for a word that's being repeated multiple times. Plants, cactuses. All right. So we can go ahead and make an inference that our topic is what?
Cactus.
Cactus, because a cactus is a plant. All right. Let's go back and determine. So that we're using the team strategy. So the T says, look for the topic, right? What does the E say? So the first sentence says, there are many kinds of unusual plants. That's this one. First one. The last sentence says, these features make the cactus a remarkable plant. All right? So, we know that that could possibly be the main idea, right? So, let's look at what could be the details. You will look for clues, like transition words, like, for example, for instance, considering this. Those are clues you'll look for to determine what the details may be. All right, so the first one, look at line 2. It says cactuses, for instance, and got a comma. So they're giving you an example, right? So we already said that a supporting or key detail gives what? Examples, statistics, what else? Explanation. So this is a clue to let us know that this is an example because it says for instance. So we're going to go ahead and say that this is detail 1. All right. Let's find another detail. Instead of regular leaves, they have needles that serve as a defense against hungry animals. Isn't this another example? All right, so we can go ahead and say this is detail 2. All right, then the next one says, their stems are full of hollow cells that store enough water to last for months. This is another example, right, or explanation. All right, so I can go ahead, if I was doing a graphic organizer, if you were doing a graphic organizer, here's an example how you would do it, right? We've already determined the topic, because we're trying to get to what? The central and main idea of this story. So, we can go ahead and write the first detail. Are we just going to write the detail out? What are we going to use to show proof of where we found the answer?
Evidence-based terms.
Right. Give me an example of one, Kajarvis, we can use for the first one. So we can say according to the text, and what does it say? According to the text, what's the first detail?
Cactuses can.
Cactuses are what? Can survive in the great heat of the desert. All right. So, let's look at the next detail. Can you come up here and help us, Jordan? Uh-huh. All right. The next detail says, instead of regular leaves, they have needles that serve as a defense against hungry animals. So, what's the evidence-based term we can use for that one? We can say, for example,
Due to the effect.
all right. Instead of regular leaves, they have needles that serve as a defense against hungry animals. And we're using the evidence-based terms. You can say what?
Due to this teeth.
Due to this fact,
Yeah, to the
or
effect.
for example, because this is showing, why are we using evidence-based terms? Thank you. Why are we using evidence-based terms?
To show that we got from
Huh?
the text. To show that we got from the text.
To show we got from the text, and what does this show? It shows proof of where we found our answers at, right? All right. Zamarian, come and write detail number 3. All right, so detail number 3 reads, their stems are full of hollow cells that store water for last for months. So what's the evidence-based term we can use? You know one, Tamari? What's the one we can use?
According to this text.
According to this text, you can also say, considering this, or the evidence suggests, or for example. Thank you so much. All right, so we have our 3 supporting details. Now we're going to determine the main idea. All right? Okay, Gary? Let's determine the main idea of our passage based on our details, right? So, we know that the topic is cactus. So we know that whatever our main idea of this story passage is, it's all about cactuses, right? So, the first one said, because remember we're going to look back at our first and last sentence, says there are many kinds of unusual plants. Well, unusual plants could be any type of thing. It's not necessarily a cactus, right? So is this talking about directly about a cactus? It's just saying unusual plants. All right? The last one says these features make the cactus a remarkable plant, able to live in one of nature's harshest environments. You think this one could be the main idea? Yes, because it tells you, based on the details that we just determined, this basically tells us that this is the main idea because it tells us everything about and gives a better explanation of what this story passage is all about, right? So we can go ahead and infer that this is the main idea of the story. All right, Megan, would you like to come and write the main idea for us? And we can say, we can use the evidence-based term by saying, according to the text, or the author stated that these features make the cactus a remarkable plant, able to live in one of nature's harshest environments. So, do everybody understand how you determine the central idea of a text and the supporting details? All right, thank you so much, Megan. All right, so this is an example of how you're going to do it. You're going to determine the central idea of the passage when we read it, okay? So I'm going to move this over to the side. So you can use as a guide. All right. Go ahead and put your bell ringers up under for the next class and get out your story. It's entitled From Little Women. And we're going to analyze that story. We're going to read it and we're going to analyze it. All right, so we're going to do this together from our story, From Little Women. So I'm going to start off reading for you guys. Then I'm going to call on you randomly using the popsicle sticks, okay? So get ready to read. All right, so the story is entitled, and I want you to use your highlighters. Pick up your highlighters and your pencils, and I want you to make annotations as we read along. We're going to be highlighting keywords, making predictions, and unpacking questions. All right, so I want you to think about this. This is the title, so make sure you make annotations of this. The title is From Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. That's the author. Make annotations to that as well. So I'm going to start off reading. Follow along. While their father is serving in the Civil War, Meg, Joe, Beth, and Amy help their mother, Marmeen, carry on with their daily lives. The family makes do with what little money they have. Then a telegram arrives. A telegram is just like an email. Make annotations to that. father is ill. This is what the telegram reads. Father is ill, and Marmee needs to go to Washington. Marmee is their mother, Mrs. March. All right. How still the room was as they listened breathlessly, and how suddenly the whole world seemed to change as the girls gathered about their mother, feeling as if all the happiness and support of their lives was about to be taken from them. Mrs. March, that's Marmee, read this message over and stretched out her arms to her daughter, saying in a tone they never forgot, "I shall go at once, but it may be too late. Oh, children, children, help me to bear it." For several minutes, there was nothing but the sound of sobbing in the room. Sobbing means crying, mingled with broken words of comfort, tender assurances of help, and hopeful whispers that died away in tears. Poor Hannah, their servant, was the first to recover, and with unconscious wisdom, she set all the rest as a good example. I won't waste no time crying, but get your things ready right away, Mom, she said heartily, as she wiped her face on her apron. All right, go ahead and read 5. Wait for your name to be called. All right, read 5, Zamaria.
She's right there, no time for tears and be calm, girl, and let me think.
All right. Jordan McNeil.
They tried to be calm. Poor things, as their mother sat up, looking pale but steady, and put her away.
All right.
Put her away.
All right, go ahead and read 11.
We believe in
Uh-huh.
believe in her and Mark, Jody will be the king and
All right. We're at 13 now. Megan, read 13.
Joe, run to the room and tell Miss King I can't come. On the way with these things, I must go to prayer for nurse. Hospital stores are not always good. Father shall have the best of everything. And to tell him to get down and black and then come and help me find my parents while I'm there to do it.
Okay, bewildered. Make annotations to that. That means she's not herself. All right. All right, Rashad. Read the bottom of 13 where it says the family rush.
The family was on the helm of Reed to her. The governor was there to ask their neighbor, Mr. Lawrence, for help. He was relieved of the girl. He also makes plans to his grandson tutors for Marmee, Washington.
All right, that's the important fact. Beth runs to ask her neighbor, Mr. Lawrence, for help. Make annotations to that. Let's go on to the next page. All right, so let's stop right there. So, what's a brief summary about prior to reading this text? Based on what we've read so far, what can you predict that this story is going to be about? What do you predict the story is going to be about? So you think, brainstorm. What do you think the rest of the story is going to be about? All right. Asia, what do you think this story is going to be about? Supporting the family. Okay? Jordan Brooks, what do you think the story is going to be about? Huh? You think they're going to go see the father in Washington? All right. Jartavius, what do you think this story is going to be about? What can you predict the story is going to be about?
I just think they want like a little strip away from their hometown.
Okay. All right. So let's read a little further along. All right, so wait for me to call on you. All right, Rashad. Read, pick up 14.
Everything, everything was arranged. Everything was arranged by the time Laura returned with a note from Aunt March, enclosing the desired sum and a few lines repeating that she had always told him it was absurd for March to go into the army.
All right, absurd. Make annotations to that. That means a little strange or weird. Absurd.
I always believed that no good would come of it, and she hoped they would take her advice the next time. Miss March put the note in the body, the money in her purse, and went on with her character.
All right, this is an important fact or detail. Everything was arranged by the time Laura returned. She had a note from her Aunt March enclosed with the desired sum of money. Make annotations to that. That is an important fact. Also, a text feature. All right, so let's move on. All right, so we're gonna let Jordan Brooks read 15.
Julie and Lucky began with a very clear expression as to what it is was a mixture of into satisfaction of the good in the region with further concern of the second as he was involved of deals she made for
All right, so Joey, where it says Joe, she came in with a funny expression on her face, and she had a ball of money in her hand, basically, and she told her mother that was her contribution. What's contribution? That means when you do something for a good cause, to contribute to something for a good cause. So she made a contribution towards her father, making her father comfortable and bringing him home. So it goes on to say in 16, my dear, where'd you get it? $25. Joe, I hope you haven't done anything rash. So she contributed $25. That's a very important fact. It's a key text feature. Highlight that and make annotations to it. All right, so let's move on to 19. Kimora, read 19. All right. So it says that she cut her hair off, basically, right?
Yes.
She cut it off for a good cause. All right, so get ready. Let's answer this question. Pause for a second. All right. So what can you infer that the main theme of this passage so far that we read? What do you think the main theme of this passage is? I'm going to call on some of you. Or you can raise your hand. What do you think the main theme of this passage is? All right? What do you think the main theme of this passage is based on the details and the facts that we've read about so far? The theme of it. Remember, the theme is basically a moral of the story, right? A lesson that's learned. Go ahead. Huh? Oh, you said family and friends should support each other? That's correct. All right. What do you think it may be, Tiaja? Tahisha, I mean? Helping others in time of need. All right. All right, so let's go on. All right, so in the story, how does the episode of Joey cutting her hair, how does that develop the theme of helping others? Remember, In the story, it was an episode about her cutting her hair. How does that help develop the theme of this story of helping others?
You show compassion for those for
It showed compassion. All right, Asia.
It shows how compassionate she is about
It shows how compassionate she is about what? About others. All right. All right. So, what's one lesson that you have learned to have the thing that you have learned in the story? What is a lesson that you have learned in the story? You can. It's important to help family and friends. That's correct. So, how do the characters who? Their children, the daughters, right? Name some of the characters. Joey, Meg, Belle, and Amy. So, how do their actions convey a theme? What's some of the things that they did?
Showing support to
They showed support
cutting her.
by doing what?
Cutting her hair.
One of them cut the hair. What's another thing?
Another one gave
One of them gave $25, and who else helped out? Oh, they also did what? X two.
the neighbor.
The neighbor. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. So I want you guys to use the racist strategy. You're going to restate, answer, cite with textual evidence, and explain. Then you're going to sum it up. I want you guys to use the racist strategy, and I want you to continue reading the rest of the story. And you're going to analyze the story. Go ahead and get your graphic organizer out. You're going to analyze the story with using this graphic organizer. And you're going to analyze it and break it down just like I just showed you, right? So, what can you infer that the central idea of this story may be? Anybody tell me? The central idea, the main idea of this story. Zamari.
The main idea of this story is why their father is serving in the Civil War, made Joe Della and Amy help their mother carry on with their lives.
Okay, where would you cite this in? Where'd you get it found? Asia.
In the first paragraph.
Yes, in the first paragraph. All right, so I've given you the main ideas. Zamari helped us out and says, while the father served in the Civil War, the family makes do with little money they have to help their mother. So on your graphic organizer right here, you're going to give the 3 supporting details. And you're going to use evidence-based terms like I showed you earlier for the other story. Go ahead and work on that for the next 30 minutes. You're going to complete a graphic organizer and use the evidence from the story to support. All right. For your homework, you're going to finish reading the story, Little Ladies, for 30 minutes at home, and be prepared for discussion. And you're going to answer the text-dependent questions at the end of the story for your homework. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and summarize in closure of today's lesson. Jartavius, what was today's lesson about?
Determine the theme or central idea of the text.
Yes, today we talked about determining the theme or central idea. We also went over citing textual evidence, which was RL 8.2, determining the theme and central idea. RL 8.1, citing the textual evidence. All right. What else did you guys do? Well, what can you remember? A summary of today's lesson. That's what today's lesson was basically about. Yes.
The other part I didn't make
No, ma'am. Okay. All right, so I want you to pull out your KWL chart. Go ahead and pull that out for your exit ticket. For your exit ticket, you're going to complete the KWL chart. You're going to tell what you know about today's lesson, what you want to know about today's lesson, and what did you learn about today's lesson. Okay? That's for your exit ticket. Go ahead and work on that. And have that completed for the next 3 minutes of class before you leave out the door. Thank you guys, and I will see you on tomorrow.